Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Andrew Turner, host and founder of the G&T Sessions podcast. And today we have a wonderful guest, Mr. Matt Robinson. Hello, Matt. How are you?
Andrew, very well, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad at all. So thanks for coming on the show. I know it's taken a little bit of time to get to schedule our diaries, given they're all crazy, obviously at this crazy time. But really pleased that you're now here. So I suppose for the benefit of the listeners and the audience, could you kind of introduce yourself? You know, what gets you up in the morning? What you're doing these days? Who is Matt Robinson?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Matthew Robinson. I'm a plant-based ultramarathon runner and transformation coach, and I help runners develop the championship mindset. I used to work with boxers. I've also worked with MMA fighters. Primarily boxers, and I've helped them. Then by them I mean amateurs, white collar boxers, and even professional boxers to win in the hurt business, whether that's trophies, medals, titles, belts. My highlight was helping a local boxer to become the British heavyweight champion, and now in the running field, helping runners. That's me.
Okay, so a bit of a change of direction.
Yeah, I've just sort of pivoted, probably 90 degrees on the spot, facing a different direction. The money, I mean, it's not necessarily about the money, but obviously you've got to keep the lights on. But most of the money's in the top of boxing. I do love boxing. I love the sport of boxing. But I think I'd sort of drifted away from what my purpose was in boxing. It was about healing people and helping the boxers, and probably it's not always a good thing to fight, is it? I mean, you're dealing with the brain, you're dealing with pain, and it's not necessarily associated with being a healer or a healing process. So because I started to sort of drift away from the healing process, and I was more getting into the actual the fighting side of it, the fighting style, the combat style, I sort of realised it's probably time for a change. So running is a lot less dangerous for the athlete, although you can take a few falls and a few tumbles. Nearly come close myself, being an ultramarathon runner, to having a few close shaves with death, coming down various mountains or whatever, falling over, tripping over, and landing headfirst onto a rock face.
Ooh.
Like you don't freestyle. So yeah, it can be quite dangerous, but not as dangerous for the athlete as boxing is, getting hit in the head.
So how I know. Obviously, we've known each other for a few years. I know we met in a very nice restaurant actually in Old Street a few years ago. We sat next to each other and had a very nice chat. And have a mutual friend, Mr. Brian Rose, of London Real fame and fortune, after his crowdfunding. I suppose the thing is that you sounds like you were doing the boxing thing for a while though. You were doing that for a few years, were you, or was that?
Yeah, I've been doing it for about 5 years in total. I worked with one boxer on and off for about 5 years.
Okay.
Started off with him on a break. He had a break at about a year off, and he was looking to get back into the swing of things. In fact, he was about to have a fight with a guy called Kimi Sokolowski, which is a big Polish guy that brought over from the Eastern Bloc, real tough, cream of the crop over there. So they brought him over to this country. I believe this is the story, to sort of raise him up the ranks, because there's a lot of over here. So I was in a boxing cafe, a boxing themed diner. With my friend Andy, and Sam is Andy's son, and he had a boxing themed diner. How cool is that? So he had a couple of things on the menu, which were boxing themed. He had the Rocky Pigiano, which was basically a loaf of bread with pretty much a couple of packets of rashers of bacon inside it, with a load of fries, fried eggs.
Ooh.
And if you ate it all, you got your name on the Wall of Fame.
Okay. Where's that boxing cafe then? Where's that?
Well, it was in Norwich. He's moved on now. He's doing something else now, so he's not, that's not open anymore. But this was a long time ago now. This was probably about 5 years ago. And he also had the big KO, which you imagine an extra large fry up that you'd get from, say, Witherspoons.
Yeah.
5, and then that's the big KO. And if you could KO the big KO, then you would get your name on the Wall of Fame. So long story short, everybody tried to KO the big KO, but nobody could do it. The most hardened Norwich City supporter couldn't do it. Mike Skinner from the streets.
Oh yeah, Mike Skinner. Yeah, is he from Norwich originally as well?
No, I don't think so. No, I think he's from London.
Oh.
Come up to visit Sam. He couldn't do it. Derek Chisora.
Derek Chisora. Yeah.
I don't think he could do it either.
Oh wow.
There was a few people that came up and had a look. In the end, there was I believe it was a young lady from the UEA, University of East Anglia, netball team, or perhaps a hockey team, that basically demolished it. Can you believe it? Got her name up on the Wall of Fame. I think it took her a lot of time to do it, but she did it. Anyway, so Sam came over to me one morning and said, I hear you do, because he'd actually just got back from Klitschko training camp.
All right. What, in Kiev?
It was I think it was in Austria where they had the training camp.
Okay.
And Sam would go over there. He was invited over there to spar with Vladimir Klitschko.
Oh, fantastic.
Brothers Vitaly Klitschko. I think 3-time world heavyweight champion. I think Vladimir's 2-time world heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
Sam had just got back, and I think Andy had mentioned to him that I did hypnotherapy. I think Klitschko mentioned to Sam that he uses a psychologist or something similar, visualization, relaxation over there. And Sam said, well, what's it all about? Sounds similar to what I heard in Klitschko camp. Can I try some? Because I've got a fight coming up. I said, yeah, of course you can. So I invited him over to my hypnotherapy clinic one night. I said to him, bring your boxing gloves with you. And I did a combination of my own that night with some NLP and some hypnotherapy. And he was wearing his boxing gloves, and we got him to visualize certain things, visualize winning the fight, visualize, hitting him and not getting hit and all the rest of it. And we created these really powerful visualizations and powerful feelings of victory. And then we anchored all those feelings and visualizations to his boxing gloves, so that when he put his boxing gloves back on, he would then be in the zone. And he won the fight. It was a tough fight though. I mean, this guy was solid. This guy was tough. I mean, he's gone on to fight, all the best heavyweights in the country.
Right.
That was good. That was the first time that I'd ever done anything like that. And I worked with Sam on and off for about 5 years, and in the end helped him lift the British heavyweight title.
No, I remember seeing that. I remember seeing that when you were actually going to see him do that. And obviously, I think it was one of the Fury brothers, wasn't it, that he got?
That was his first defence of the title. So that was right. I worked with him on that one as well. Didn't, unfortunately. That was against Hughie Fury. He was Tyson Fury's nephew.
Right.
The funny thing was that so I got a bit of press for that fight to help promote the fight. But the funny thing was, a day after Sam unfortunately lost the fight, but a day after that, there was an article that came out from Team Fury to say thank you to Rory MJ, advanced hypnotherapy in London, who helped Hughie put the finishing touches on his British heavyweight title attempt. So he had a hypnotherapist working with him during that camp as well. I think it's probably the first time in history two two teams in a heavyweight title fight I've ever had two hypnotherapists, two mind coaches working in the team. So I think it's something you'll definitely expect to see more of. I mean, looking at, for example, moving on to MMA, Conor McGregor, he had help this time with Anthony Robbins.
Oh, did he? Oh, really? Anthony Robbins? Oh, wow, Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, you mean on his comeback?
Yeah, he worked with him. I believe that Conor had a few things that he needed to deal with, and he embraced it, and he became a bit vulnerable, because you've got to be open to things like this, because MMA is a very tough sport, and you're taught to suck it up, buttercup, and just get on with it, and all the rest of it. But you can actually benefit a lot from having a mind coach and
yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I went on a session actually just literally a couple of days ago. Tony Robbins was on it, and he was talking about some of the people he'd coached, and he actually mentioned Conor McGregor. I didn't actually realise it was so recent, because you look at Conor McGregor from a mindset and from a physicality point of view, and the way that he conducts himself, which I find is quite amusing. It's the kind of walking around the ring. I only have admiration for these people to do that kind of stuff, and. To see him to be open to having that kind of discussion with someone like Tony Robbins, who's a bit of a legend, then it's interesting to hear that. So yeah, sorry for asking about the boxing stuff. I mean, I know we're going to move on to other topics. It's just I've done some boxing over the last few years myself, and my boxing partner in crime, Dino Marulian from Mission Physique, that he's got his own company, and he's like the Mr. Miyagi, kind of an Italian version of Mr. Miyagi. From the Karate Kid, and it's I think when you get into the kind of understanding the boxing discipline around that, and the thing they've been doing to get to where they got to, it really is, it's very admirable what they do. My only little snippet of information is I was in a what do you call it, a juice bar about 2 months ago, just before this whole pandemic thing started, and actually this guy comes in and with this young lady, and I said, I'm sure I recognise this guy, and it was David Hay.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a quick chat with him, and it was just before the Tyson Fury for the rematch actually with Deontay Wilder, and obviously David was very vocal about his view that Tyson, he thought Tyson had gone off the rails and wasn't going to, and obviously you probably saw the preamble to the fight, everything like that, and he got it wrong, obviously, because obviously the stuff that Tyson had done.
I remember him saying, because David Hay was ringside for the fight, I remember him saying, I believe he was ringside for the fight. Anyway, I remember him saying at the end of the first round, he was doing the commentary, this is the best I've ever seen Tyson, the end of the first round. This is the best I've ever seen Tyson, the way he's moving around the ring, so he had obviously, I like David Hay, very emotional guy. Emotional people always change their minds, because they get so emotional, they go in one direction, and then they come back in a different direction. So that's what emotion is all about, right? But yeah, I like David Hay, and obviously he said that it's the best he's ever seen Tyson. That was just after the first round. If that's anything,
physically, it's quite interesting when you see people on TV, or you see them on, the YouTube or whatever, the recordings, or you probably, when you meet them live, he's got a different physicality to him. If you look at some of his with Tony Bellew, etc., some of the slugging matches with he's fought, which has been very impressive. But he's quite slim and quite, maybe he's lost weight since he's been.
Well, I know he went vegan, didn't he?
Did he? Okay, he's gone vegan, is it? Okay, right, okay, that explains a lot then. But he was. I jokingly said to him, I said, if you don't think that Tyson's going to hack it, then why don't you come back into the category and come back and dominate? And he said, I'm too old for that. So
yeah, right. I think London Real now as well, isn't he? He's part of the London Real Army. Yeah?
Who is?
David Hay.
Is he? Okay, I've heard it all now.
Yeah. Okay. Hashtag London Real Army. You'll see for yourself. But yeah, he definitely went vegan for a little while, and it wasn't good PR, because obviously he lost to Tony Bellew when he got stopped twice, actually, didn't he? And
exactly.
got stopped once, but he lost twice, and it was vegan both times, I think. But I love David Hay. My favourite David Hay fight was when he went over to Rush. Was it Rush? He fought that great big Russian. And it was like David and Goliath.
Oh, yeah, the huge guy. Yeah, the like the kind of the guy out of a kind of a kind of ancient movie. So it's just huge. Yeah.
Yeah, and he just wobbled him, I think, in the last round, and he done his and I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe that was an amazing fight. I remember because I used to drink back then as well, and I had this can of beer in my hand, and I jumped up from the couch and I covered myself in beer, and I messaged David and reminded him of that, and he started laughing because I'm not on personal terms with him, but yeah, I'm sure he would appreciate that. I was probably not the only one that night that jumped on the couch and spilled beer all over themselves.
Yes, I mean, that was just a little interlude about boxing. There's obviously it's a fascinating kind of area of people's lives, and obviously it's very, very, I suppose, present in people's psyche now with all the stuff that's happened recently. And I'm a big fan. So it's interesting that with the stuff that you've been doing, and this I suppose as you said, the 90-degree readjustment in your plan. I suppose one of the things I wanted to talk to understand more about is about, I suppose, what's your backstory? Is it you said you're a hypnotherapist. You said you plant-based. You said you're an ultra marathon runner. That's some pretty big things there around how around your diet, around what you do from keeping fit and being healthy, and obviously the thing about the hypnotherapy is that something you kind of fell into? Was it part of your plan, or is it how did you transition into that type of areas from what you did before?
Yeah, I mean, it all really started when I got the opportunity to work with Sam Sexton, heavyweight boxer that I was talking to you about before. In NLP, I'm not an NLP practitioner, but being a hypnotherapist, I obviously studied NLP, know a little bit about it. And there's this term called modeling, and how you master or how you study excellence is by modeling someone that's already excellent.
Right.
Sam was already an excellent fighter. He was a former Sky Sports prize fighter, champion. He was a former Commonwealth champion, heavyweight champion. So he was already an excellent athlete. So at the time, I was doing 40 hours a week as a hypnotherapist. I was massively overweight. I was about 16.5 stone.
Oh, wow.
I was doing over 100 hours a month voluntary work, because I was also like a weekend warrior, special constable, which you basically don't get paid for it. You just do it to help the community.
Yeah.
And I went to an evening with Tyson Fury in the Ocean Rooms in Galston near Great Yarmouth. And at the time, Tyson Fury was about 28 stone. He was going through his period of mental health problems. He had already become the world champion.
This is post he's been winning the Klitschko fight.
It was afterwards when he was going through his mental health problems.
Okay.
And so you get the chance at these evenings to have a photograph, right? So I photographed with him, and he said, I said to him, because I thought, well, it's obviously an opportunity for a little plug. I said, have you ever tried boxing hypnotherapy? He said, yeah, I already tried it. I said, oh, okay, fair enough, because you get a few seconds, and that was it. If he'd have said no, I'd probably give him a business card. So, I got into it. That's how I got into it. And then working with Sam, working with an athlete, seeing how they train. I mean, you start to model them. And in the build up to the Huey Fury fight, I was living with Sam. I was staying around his. I was eating what he was eating. I even trained with him not down a boxing gym. I went down a boxing gym because I did work down there, but I was going on long runs with him and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I'm a pretty good runner, and I'm probably egocentric a lot more about it now than what I was, but I've always been a good runner. And Sam just would absolutely annihilate me. He was so fit. This is a guy that's like nearly, he was, 18 stone, trying to get down to say 16.5, 17, something like that. He was so strong, so fast. And I didn't realize big guys could be fast. I didn't realize big guys could be fast and super. So that changed my whole
Well, I mean, see, and I mean, you know, I've not been in a professional boxing match, obviously. Maybe never say never, but or even an amateur one. But my friend Gary, you might know Gary actually from Unreal, but he works for cancer research, and he did Stand Up for Cancer. He did a boxing match in East London. I don't know if it was that classic one that's near Hoxton or Hackney or whatever, but he literally said that he did the first round, and he's going, oh my God, because the aerobic fitness you have to have, and like after the second round, they were like leaning on each other because it was absolutely full on. So it's the aerobic and the strength and the fitness. It's kind of it's an all over our body thing, isn't it? It's it's your lungs and your fists.
Because if you don't do both, and you're just going to lose weight. Studies have shown that if you need to build up muscle, if you don't do strength work and you just do cardio, then you're not going to build up muscle. You're going to lose it.
Yeah.
It's really important that you do both. And I mean, the running, he was just amazing. He was so fast, so strong. And the beautiful thing about boxers is that most boxers that are seasoned boxers, that they will have their strength and conditioning coaches, they will have their coaches. But Sam could quite easily train himself. He was doing that when he wasn't down the gym, and then when he was down the gym, obviously he was having strength and conditioning coaches and his coach who would also train him. But then when they're not at the gym, they're also they're independent. They have to train themselves. They know how good they need to be. Whereas when I was in the army, you have a constant drill sergeant, PT, beasting you. Rob, and then the moment they've gone, it's like you can relax. But with boxers, they have to keep on training. They have to keep on training all the time. They have to have rest, obviously, but they have to be their own drill instructor. They have to be their own sergeant major, and that's an incredibly disciplined thing to do. So it gets back to talking about modelling and excellence. So I learned more from working with Sam than what Sam learned from me. I mean, because it was like a massive privilege working with such a super athlete. I would say something, he would confirm that was true. So right. I was learning far more from him.
Fantastic.
So anyway, this was this inspired me, and eventually Sam got a opportunity to fight for the British heavyweight title against a Highlander, Gary Cornish. And when I got the call, I just started training as well, non-stop, because I wanted to experience what it was like for an athlete training. What that felt like. And I've never stopped training. I've been training ever since. I train pretty much every day, and that's. I mean, I have rest days, but I train hard. I mean, it was around that time my best friend died as well. In the build up to that fight, my best friend, he pretty much taught me everything that I know about personal development, and he got diagnosed with cancer. He got taken very, very quickly, and it was a tough time. It was highs and lows and everything. So I had to focus on the job. The job needed to be completed, by any means necessary. So there was a lot of ups and downs. Also, my stepdaughter, she has a brain tumor, and she has a lot of issues. So we me and my partner, we look after her and make sure that she's okay.
Right.
But by the time I moved to Spain, me and my partner, we decided that we needed a change of environment. So we moved to Spain, and we moved into the mountains, and I was able to train pretty much every day in the mountains, just run around the mountains, and also coming up with the creativity that I needed to harness the hypnotic strategy that was going to help Sam to lift the British heavyweight title. I mean, I put together a masterpiece of hypnotic artwork that definitely helped him to lift that title. He even said, I mean, it was a hard fight. It was on Box Nation.
Yeah, Box Nation. Yeah.
Show, and it was on Box Nation. So anyway, Sam would listen to, because I sent him an MP3. And the thing with hypnosis is you have to listen to it over and over and over and over again. And then what happens is the words sink into your unconscious mind, and then they act as commands when you post. And it was so uncanny. It was so accurate. The fight almost played out the same way as the MP3, the hypnotherapy subliminals that he was listening to instructed him to do.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
It all came out the same way, you know, and it was a tough and gritty fight. There's no I in team, you know.
Yeah, the famous phrase. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I mean, whether what I contributed to Sam winning was 1% or, you know, 100% or whatever. I mean, it all helps, right? So Sam fought a gritty fight. It went the distance, and he won a unanimous decision. And I mean, you should have seen the guy. Gary Cornish is a monster. He's huge. he's like 6'7", you know. Sam's 6'3", so it was another Goliath fight. And yeah, it went the distance. But Sam won a unanimous decision and won a British heavyweight title. And that was a really, really great night for him. We were up there with a small crew from Norwich. It was in Edinburgh, and we were, you know, surrounded by Scots, and we had all the exits marked just in case we needed to make a. Actually, I went to the wrong side at the end of the fight. I went to Gary Cornish's side by accident. I felt for the man, you know. I mean, he fought a good fight, and you know, to not come away with that on home soil must have been a bitter pill to swallow. So total respect for the guy, but he's retired now, I think.
So it sounds like you really got integrated into his team as well as part of that kind of journey with Sam. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Sam said I was a strong member of his team, Team Sexton. So like within a gym, you have your fighters, and then each fighter sort of has their own team. But it's not Team Sexton that night. It was Team Norwich, you know, Team Norfolk. So there's few different ways of looking at it. And one of the things that I learned, which I think is important, is having a higher purpose, a bigger reason for doing what you're doing, a bigger reason for taking part and winning. Because more often than not, when you're in that pain cave, it's having that higher purpose, that bigger reason for doing what you're doing, whether it's, you know, flying a flag for your gym, your town, your city, your country, or whatever, will give you that extra lift when you need it most. And
is that what you're? I mean, when you say that, you know, you use some interesting phrases there about your pain cave, and which obviously when you're in, you know, I would call you in troughs. You know, you're in peaks and valleys. You know, when you obviously, you know, people have got their highs and their maybe not so high moments in their life. You've got your pain cave, and then you also said about a higher purpose. Is that kind of, that's what Simon Sinek would say, your kind of why? You know, why you know, what's your life goal? What are you trying to achieve? Why are you on your journey? Is that what you're talking about there?
Yeah, I mean, that's 100%. From my point of view, I wanted to succeed, not just for me, not just for Sam, not just for Team Sexton, but also for my friend that I'd lost. You know, for him. You know, Sam also. You know, Sam and Ben, who I'm the brother, the family. You know, that they also had some strife as well. They had a personal tragedy in the build up to the fight. So sometimes you can use those feelings of grief to project you into a state of pride and honor.
Yeah.
You know, that makes a big difference. You know, that makes a massive difference, because it's not just about you then, it's about something else. You know what I mean? And then that gets the hairs on the back of my neck standing up just talking about it. So it's something energetic, it's something metaphysical, you know, it's something motivational. So I'm talking about like a flame. And if in motivational theory, this is how I describe motivational theory. It's such a hard thing to explain, but if you imagine, if you want to start a fire, first you need a spark. you need a few leaves, you need some kindling,
Yeah.
and then if you've got a flame, then you put a few more bigger sticks on, and this is your motivation building. And then if you've got a few logs to chuck on the fire, then you really get a fire going. And that's kind of how motivation works. And sometimes your why is you need a few big logs, so the logs would represent the why. So
Yeah.
a few big logs, and then you really get the motivation going. So that's how I would explain this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I think the other point I was going to make was that when you said that there's no I in team, obviously it's quite a, it's obviously a phrase that people use. Yeah, I literally got an email about that yesterday. Literally, that was the headline in the email, and it was from a guy called Tim Grover, who I don't know if you know Tim Grover. So he was he's got a coaching company called Attack Athletics. And he was the coach for Michael Jordan for a couple of decades, and for Kobe Bryant. And I'll be honest with you, I mean, I've seen lots of people public speak, but it's a couple of years ago. Grant Cardone runs this thing called the 10X conference in Las Vegas or in the US, and Tim Grover came on, and I can send you the link to the recording. It's probably one of the best speeches I've ever seen in my life, and he describes coaching Michael Jordan, and there's a story about when they're on the basketball training, and there's this team there, and this guy literally, I think he kind of falls on, one of the other players falls on the ground, and literally I think he's either got a heart condition or he's got some kind of physical problem, and literally Michael Jordan says, "Are we going, coach? Are we going? Are we going again?" Yeah, literally, and this guy's like. He's like, he's literally got a problem, like get the ambulance, yeah? And literally Michael Jordan's going, come on, coach, we got the game to play. And, stories like that, I'm going, what? It's just like it's another level of mindset, and it's another level of performance, and it's another level of what is going on in Michael Jordan's head there. It's like, what is the level of empathy? Maybe it's a bit lower than it should be, but the level of focus on his goal, I mean, my God, yeah. And so Tim, you should check Tim Grover out. He's quite an impressive individual.
When you've got a big enough why, you can endure any how. Is
yeah.
To explain that. I mean, it's like David Goggins, for example, someone that I admire and model. I mean, he has been through all kinds of trauma. He's a traumatized child.
I've read his book. You can't hurt me. It's brilliant. Yeah.
Can't hurt me. And he uses that as fuel. He uses that pain, that trauma as fuel to get him to do these absolutely
insane. Yeah, I know.
Athleticism. And me being me, I came up with a phrase a few years ago called the chameleon effect. I tend to enjoy taking on the extreme qualities of other people, so that I can learn from them firsthand, because that's how we learn through wisdom. We have to get experience. So to get the wisdom, we have to get experience. So I threw myself into the world of Goggins and and ran Goggins all day long. And there was a time when he did the San Diego one day, which you have to run around a mile track for 100 miles or for 24 hours. And he had to do this so that he could get accepted into Badwater, which is like a notorious ultra marathon. Okay. And he'd been training for this San Diego one day. He just thought he'd be able to just turn up and rock it. And the night before, he even done like a killer leg workout with one of his Navy SEAL friends, because he's David Goggins, ex-Navy SEAL ultra.
Yeah, like Jocko, yeah.
And he was like 200 pounds as well. So he wasn't like me, like an ultra marathon right there and then. He was just starting out at the beginning of his journey. So he 200 pounds, going to run 100 miles in 24 hours. And the night before, he's going to kill a leg day. Okay. And basically by that mile 70, he was pissing blood, he was,
wow,
as he called it. And I'm not comparing myself to David Goggins. I'm not doing that. But when I was training when I'd done my first ultra marathon, I carried on training, and I was up in the mountains one day. I was doing like a 30-miler up the tallest mountain on the Costa del Sol, and I forgot to take my salt tablets with me, and I ran out of water, and it was like 25, 30-degree heat, and on the way down, something went pop, and I started pissing blood, and I was stumbling around, and I had no battery on my phone, and I was in the middle of the mountains, and I ended up walking through some sort of what do they call it when they have a big party in Spain? Anyway, so they were having a big party in Spain, a big what do they call it? Begins with fiesta. They're having a big fiesta.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
I'm associated with this memory. I was in a bad way. And everybody was partying. There was all these men and women and children, and everybody's having a good time. And I'm like, I'm totally messed up. And I've just ran all these miles, and I'm pissing blood, and I want to ask for help. I can't really speak Spanish that well. So I thought, well, screw it. I'll just run back home. I'll just carry on running. And this is exactly what Goggins had to do in order to complete the San Diego one day, to complete the miles in 24 hours. And I got back home afterwards, and I was watching Creed 2. I think it was Creed 2 or Creed 3. And he gets beaten up really badly by this Russian guy.
Yeah.
And he's in blood. And I remember someone saying, he's going to get through it. He just needs a couple of weeks rest. Thought that's good enough for me. I don't need to see no doctor. In 2 weeks, I'll be back to normal. A week later, or 2 weeks later, I was out running again up in the mountains. I didn't see any doctor. Now, that may be stupid, but I didn't have no doctor to see. I was up in the mountains. And for me, that was a little piece of the Goggins lifestyle. And how I framed that in my mind, how I got through all that was like, pain is my trophy. This is my trophy. Going through all that was my trophy for doing it. And this is where I got it from Goggins. Goggins has the same mindset. So all of that stuff, when he's laying in the floor in the bathroom in the fetal position, covered in all of this mess that I've just been talking about, he framed that as this was his trophy. Being alone with his pain was his trophy. So you've got to use that darkness. You've got to use that dark side of motivation, that dark side of yourself, because we all have a shadow side. We all have a dark side. But most of us aren't tested. Most of us aren't in a situation where we have to activate that fight or flight response. And when you get into a situation, you don't really know what you're going to do. So that's just talking about the mindset and that dark side. We all have that. We all have that. It's just we don't always have the opportunity to tap into it. And then if we do, then we need to, how are we going to respond to it? So that's what.
So what you're saying is how you. I mean, that's a pretty astounding story, Matthew. I mean, the way you described it when you're walking through all these other people, having their party. It gave me the impression of like a Hollywood movie. Like we see these Hollywood movies where the lead actor is walking through and he's like in a different zone. It's all like fuzzy around him, and he's like in a different world, and there's all this kind of thing going on around him. The way you described it sounded like that.
I thought it was a renal failure. It was horrible. It was one of the most horrible experiences in my life. But now I look back on it as a trophy. I look back on that. David Goggins also has this thing called the cookie jar, and the cookie jar is when you've failed at things in your life, and then you've gone back to that thing, and then you've succeeded at it. So that when you're in these times, these tough times, whether you're a boxer or whatever. I mean, Muhammad Ali, he had like 4 years out of the ring when he got banned from boxing because he wouldn't sign up to the army. Vietnam. 4 years out of the ring. I think he had a couple of fights, and then he lost to Sonny Liston.
Sonny Liston. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think was it.
Was it Frazier? Yeah.
He lost to Frazier, and he would have had to go into the cookie jar. Look, I can do this. I've got to go back to the person that I was. Those wins I had against Sonny Liston. And draw on that strength from that previous position. Is that right? That's about what I call developing the champion mindset.
Right.
So working with champions athletes, working with Sam. Sam's a champion. I learned a lot about developing the champion mindset because Sam was already a champion. So I had to model. I was able to model a real champion in real time and take qualities and say, where else can I find these qualities that exist in other champions, and then connect the dots. Like Steve Jobs would say, you connect the dots looking back. Everybody's got different learning styles. So what I mean by a learning style is the way that we learn. And some people are activists. Some people learn by throwing themselves into it and learning on the job. Other people are pragmatists. Other people are reflectors. I'm a reflector. I tend to learn after the experience.
Okay.
I make as many notes as I can, and then I learn afterwards. I connect the dots going backwards. That's just who I am. That's my learning style. So that's what I did. And that helped me to become an ultra runner. That helped me to become an ultra marathon runner. That helped me to help other athletes to win. But it's something that I've helped nurture along the way. Not nurture, something that I've created along the way.
It's interesting. I love this episode. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. We talk about the G&T sessions. We talk about growth and technology. What you're talking about is mental growth. Yeah, I think you have a phrase from Paul McKenna that I think you mentioned me before about the
mind like a laser guided missile. Like a laser guided missile, and its goal is its target. So you've got to be clear on exactly what your goal is, because you have something in your brain called the reticular activating system, something in the mind called the reticular activating system. And you've got to be very clear, first of all, on what it is that you want, because if you're not clear, then you're going to be focusing on all the wrong stuff. And the reticular activating system, basically, we're bombarded with millions and billions of pieces of information every second.
Yeah.
So that filters out all of that stuff, so that you're left with about 7 plus 2 minus 2 pieces of information.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're an athlete, when you're developing a laser focus on winning, for example, in combat sports, you need to focus on winning. You need to cut out all unnecessary activity.
It's like declutter, detox from everything else that's not important to that mission. Is that kind of what you do?
Yeah, 100%. So things like switching off social media in the fight, just separating yourself from distractions and dramas, so that you can develop that tunnel vision, so that you can develop that laser focus. Because what happens when you do that, you activate your RAS, then you find yourself, you'll enter into flow states, and flow states is where time and space kind of like speed up and give you a feeling of entering the zone. Gamma waves of powerful insight are released. So gamma waves are very, very quick waves of energy that can help to synchronize the brain, so that you can get into the flow state and separate yourself from your own thoughts and your own mind, essentially.
What you mean? So in the flow state, do you get kind of absolute clarity on what the path forward is? Is that what you? How you describe the flow state?
Yeah, it's a very spooky state. From my own personal experience, when I'm out running, I almost feel like I'm zoning in, and time and space kind of speed up, and it's quite a positive power.
Well, like you're in a vortex kind of thing, is that?
Yeah, and I think it attracts you to that thing that you want to finish, to score, to
achieve. Yeah.
So that's getting back to the mind. Your mind is literally like a laser guided missile. So you've got to be very clear about what you focus on.
Make sure when you press the button, it's going the right direction. Yeah. Interesting. So I know we've covered in this session today, a lot of the G, you could say, the growth, and you've obviously talked about a lot of examples of people and how you've helped them on their growth. So what about you? Has it all been, like peak? Has it been going like walking the 5 peaks? So have you had any valleys as well? Is there anything else you want to share on that type of topic? Or
we had we had a lot. We've had a lot to deal with on the way. Stepdaughter, she had a she's got a brain tumor. She was diagnosed about 6-7 years ago. She was given about 5 years to live, and this was nearly 7 years ago now.
Wow.
She's raised a lot of money for brain tumor research. She's raised £50,000 for brain tumor research. She's a former Miss UK. She's a nice girl, you know, and she tried some different things, some alternative therapy rather than chemo and radio. We raised some money for her. She went to Tijuana. She traveled over to Tijuana with mum and got a herbal alternative to chemo and radiotherapy. And if you've ever, I haven't, but I'm sure if you've ever been across the border into Mexico, I'm sure that's quite a freaky, scary experience. And when she was in Spain, we did a little bit of fundraising with the expat community, which helped to raise the money to go to Tijuana. And the story, made it on Sky News. It made it across the pond to CNN, I think Fox News as well. And at the time, Mike Tyson's management team, who are now the former management team, got in contact with us and gave us advice on how to help Kerry. And,
wow. Okay.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Mike Tyson's team. Okay.
I know, it was Mike Tyson's former management team at Tyson's Ranch. So he's got his thing over there, Tyson's Ranch, and basically it's all about seed. And so he's got a new management team there now. So it was a former management team got in contact with us and gave us advice on how to help Kerry. And yeah, Kerry's had a clear scan, or not clear, but she's had a stable scan. There's a big difference. Had a stable scan, and years now. I mean, they said she was only going to live for 5 years, but she's still here 7 years now, and going strong. So we've had a lot of ups and downs along the way, and you live and you learn, as they say. But we're still here and still fighting, and yeah, that's pretty much it, really. But that's life, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, when I've spoken to some other people, and it's this thing about if people say it's like that, yeah, just peak after peak after peak, and you're top of Kilimanjaro or you're top of Everest, then I kind of say, how do you do that? Because that sounds just impossible. So, I think everybody, I've had lots of like this in my time on this planet so far.
Life is about climbing mountains, without a doubt. I'm an ultra sky runner. I run up and down mountains, or haven't run up and down many lately. But life is all about climbing mountains, and to get to the peak of any mountain, you have got challenges and hurdles that you've got to overcome along the way. Because there's no easy way up the mountain, is there? So once you get to the top of the mountain, once you can manifest your life in a positive way, you can then hold your hand up high and say, right, I've overcome this, and this, and I've still managed to manifest myself in a positive way rather than a negative way. And I think that's a key thing, because we've all got to cross the bear in life. We've all got something that we've got to overcome. We've all got challenges and hurdles we've got to overcome, whether it's confidence issues, self-doubt, control issues, perfectionist tendencies, trust issues, strength issues, whatever. We've all got these individual challenges to overcome. So that's what life's all about. It's about embracing what's in front of you and going for the higher purpose, and ultimately being the best you that you can be.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is about one of the things about some of the stuff that, for example, Jocko Willing, yeah, a couple of years ago when I got involved with Brian and stuff that he was doing, is one of the most.
Jocko Willing, the US Navy SEAL, extreme ownership.
Yeah, one of the most, and I've actually used this. Actually, it's quite interesting. I've used it with a few of the different, CEOs, tech startups I've worked with. So the thing where you have a setback, right? And there's a really good video that he's got on YouTube, and he talks obviously about that you know, I'm still breathing, I'm still alive. Yeah. And obviously some of the disciplines that he's done from his actual journey with US Navy SEALs, and obviously his TEDx talk, incredibly inspirational. And you know, it's a bit like, you know, I've just broken my leg, good. Yeah, I've just lost that deal, good. I've just had this, you know, thing that's hit me, good. You know, reload. You know, it's rebalance, reload, get back on the field. Yeah. So and just using that with some of the people that I've worked with over the last few years has been, you know, they've gone. It's been like their epiphany moment. Yeah, it's been like you know, it's like a wake up call for them, because I think that people get things out of perspective. Yeah, and you know, they don't show enough gratitude about what they've actually got, and they actually then, just by stepping back a little bit and actually saying, right, okay, we're going to go back out there. So there's that kind of thing about the military discipline, the military mindset, the high performance sports people mindset. You know, the Tim Grover example I gave, great examples you've given. It's you know, if you traverse that into the business world, it's fascinating how the kind of there's a bridge there. There's some really good learning.
There's a few things there, I mean, without a doubt. I mean, Jocko Willink, he's all about discipline equals freedom. You know, I mean, he's a beast. You know, he's a bit of a control. Well, you know, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily like to have been in his team. I mean, imagine that. So this guy, he's all about extreme ownership, and he's all about you taking ownership of your own problem and not being a victim. You know, because there's a lot of people nowadays that just want to play the victim card. So everything's your problem. Everything is your problem to fix. Everything is your responsibility to take ownership of that. And he does it in a really, I mean, you talk about good, everything's all good, everything's good. And that's the ultimate reframe, isn't it? So if something's bad, then you're going to say it's good. And you're going to start finding reasons why that thing is good. Yeah, I'm sure he's being sarcastic. But there's a lot of stuff being done right now into neuroscience at the moment. And so there's been some studies done on rats. Was it mice either? There's a certain part of the brain near the amygdala they found a fear and bravery switch in the brain, and it's what they did. They did this experiment on rats, and they switched the switch from fear to bravery. Now, when they did an experiment with these eagles flying down, swooping over these rats, and normally the response of a rat would be to freeze or run away, not to fight. You know, from the point of view of the rat anyway. So anyway, when they flipped the switch to bravery, these rats would then stand on their back legs.
Their haunches, yeah.
Pretty much start beating their chest. would fly down. And the outcome of the test was they pretty much, they're guessing, but they're hypothesizing that humans' brains probably possess equivalent circuitry. So finding ways to toggle the balance between fear and bravery could be the difference in, like, for example, extreme situations. It could be any kind of extreme situation, anything that triggers your fight or flight. So that could be a situation. You know, you've got the demands of the CEO bearing down on you. What are you going to do about it? You know, are you gonna crouch? Are you gonna flee, neglect the situation and run away, or are you gonna embrace the situation, beat your chest, metaphorically speaking, and attack the problem and have an attacking mindset, so that you have everything is good, because you can do that, and the suggested techniques that they talked about were things like deep breathing techniques, visual fixation, visualization. And there's been a new study done into deep breathing, and about how deep breathing through the nose rapidly can affect your behavior and emotional judgment for the better in extreme fight or flight situations, because breathing through the nose has a direct link to the limbic system in the brain, which is the animal brain, which is where amygdala is, which is responsible for your motivation and all your emotions. So no doubt, breathing through your nose, activating the limbic system and synchronizing both hemispheres of the brain may be able to help you nail that big business meeting that you're about to have, or nail that fight that you're about to have in boxing, or nail that race that you're going to win in running, simply by breathing through the nose and out through the mouth. Who would have thought that neuroscience would be able to highlight something so simple, something that we take for granted, as actually being extremely beneficial in predicting an outcome that you want?
That's interesting, because a couple of examples of that. I mean, it's like the Wim Hof stuff, yeah, the Wim Hof breathing, yeah. I'm not saying, that's kind of like similar to what you just said, yeah?
100%, yeah. So with the Wim Hof method, Wim Hof is an expert in deep breathing and submerging himself in cold water. And
which, by the way, you need to do more of with me and a few guys.
I mean, I do it, not every morning, but most mornings. My routine includes a cold shower with deep breathing techniques. Now,
okay, good.
Yeah, so the Wim Hof method goes a bit deeper into this kind of study, in the sense that when you breathe through your nose and you're immersing yourself with, for want of a better word, you're covering yourself in cold water, that activates the reptilian brain, which is part of the brain stem, which is actually a lot deeper than the amygdala and the animal brain.
Right.
So by doing that, you are tapping into your autonomic nervous system, which is where the pineal gland is. That's responsible for adrenaline production. And his studies have proven that you can control your health and your happiness through these particular types of exercises that he preaches. And the studies, I understand, are ongoing with Wim Hof. You can visit his website and read all of the different studies into that kind of deep breathing, the deep breathing experiments. And it's also reminded me of another one as well. A lot of people will turn their nose up at this one, but this one's true. It's also scientifically proven. You can do the research yourself. Gratitude, the emotional, the mental state of gratitude can also help athletes to perform better and win. That's right there. That's my own hypothesis, but the actual results for gratitude can do things like reduce anxiety, reduce depression, reduce inflammation. I mean, how good is that? Gratitude can reduce inflammation. How does that work? It does, and it's all linked together through the breathing. But you can Google the studies yourself. They're all out there. But the science of gratitude used to be something that people would consider woo-woo, but it is actually a science that now has many, many benefits to you, and must be definitely included in your daily mindset meditation or whatever it is that you do every morning to set yourself into a peak performance state. And you asked me at the very beginning, I didn't answer that. What do I do, to get myself out of bed every morning? I start with that thing in there, the positive self-talk, my affirmations. I have affirmations. I have things that I say to myself every single day that gets me out of my bed, and then gets me into the shower, gets me having that relationship with my reptilian brain, with my animal part of my brain, through the breathing and through the cold showers. That the affirmations are key. Muhammad Ali used to say affirmations all day, every day, and he was probably one of the best boxers that has ever graced the ring. And he used to say that he was the greatest even before he was the greatest.
Yes, so, exactly.
Sometimes you have to project yourself into the future as the person that you want to be. And sometimes you have to do that by talking yourself up, even because an affirmation is saying something that isn't true as if it's already happened. Okay, you're not faking it till you make it. That's not what I mean. You're using your mind and your emotions to get yourself into that peak performance state, so that you activate your reticular activation system. So you focus on the things that you want, so that you can attract it to you, so that you can make it happen. And
you create the vibration.
Yeah, you're creating the vibe, because then you're starting to think in different ways. But essentially, that is how it works. And all the science now in neuroscience is now starting to point towards these things that were considered non-physical, therefore not worth measuring. Like, you know, there's been studies into visualization. A famous Australian psychologist did an experiment with 3 groups of basketball players taking free throws. And what he did was he got one group to practice free throws every day for 2 weeks. He got another group to practice free throws and visualize practicing free throws.
Okay.
And then another group to do nothing at all. And obviously the group that did nothing at all for 2 weeks didn't improve whatsoever. And the group that visualized and practiced improved by 1%. Now, that may only be 1%, but it's still an improvement.
Incremental gains.
You use it together. You use it together because it helps. It helps you. You can't argue with the science. 1% is a lot. Is a lot.
Yeah.
It's better to use it and get the 1% than to not use it and risk, because sometimes, especially in elite sports, that 1% could just
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. It's between the, you know, at the peak performance. It's literally, are you first place, second place? You know, do you get that final point in the final minute of the final second before the whistle goes? It's all that kind of stuff. So just there's three things I want to say to you that you've triggered in my head since we've been speaking just now. Firstly, the thing I would say is this. Remember that? Yeah. Remember Morpheus and Neo? Yeah. So your little story about the rats and the eagle, or the golden eagle and the rats, that reminds me of that. Yeah. Reminds me of, you know, Neo taking on the guys. The second one is the Wim Hof stuff. So in the last 2 years, I have literally jumped in the Serpentine, naked, well, pretty much naked, with a group of people and then a certain individual, which I think you may know. And done, obviously, you know, guns submerged in freezing water for quite a period of time, and very, 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 very uplifting experience. And I've realised it's now May 2020. Yeah, I need to get back in that Serpentine. Yeah, so I've actually got a call with that individual I went in last October with on Tuesday. So I've got to get that date in the diary. And then the third thing I was going to say was that, in my short time on this planet, the thing about getting in the right mindset and actually, you know, using breathing to get focus, I'll always fondly remember was when I was at Tesco, because I think, you know, I did some interesting role at Tesco, and I did quite a senior job at some point. Was that just 1 second. Yeah. So the situation was that we had to go and see the main board. Yeah. And
you did your breathing techniques, yeah?
So, you know, literally, I spoke to one of the coaches. So we went on a leadership team meeting. I went on a leadership team meeting for a week with a load of CFOs and finance directors from Tesco. I was doing an operations director role. And, you know, the week after, I had a very, very big meeting with the main board of Tesco, Terry Leahy, all the usual, you know, the legendary guys from the team there. And literally, he said, choose your attitude. Yeah, that was his phrase, choose your attitude and breathe. Yeah. And that was the only tips he gave me. Yeah, that was it. Because you had to get in the right frame of mind, because it was like going into the Colosseum. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, that's one half of the John Grindler approach, isn't it? NLP, one of the founding fathers of NLP. So posture, breathing technique is important. I think it's the images that you make in your mind, but the key thing is attitude, and attitude means angle of approach. So the paradigm is the way that you view the world, but to have the appropriate attitude is to have the correct angle of approach. So what angle of approach are you looking to take what is the outcome that you want? So start with the end, and what is the outcome that you want from this meeting? And then use your breathing techniques to focus your mind, your reticular activating system on the intention or the outcome that you want, and then through your breathing, and then create the attitude to the outcome that you want. So that's how I'd interpret what you just said.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you just give me some examples. Obviously, there's a movie example. I'm not saying that we're all living in a movie, but we probably are living in a movie. It's just a very big movie.
Yeah, the Matrix. I mean, we're almost living in the Matrix right now, aren't we? I mean, Theresa May cut the police force quite a long time ago, significantly, so that we're running on a skeleton crew. Other countries like Spain and Australia, almost like police states, and police are everywhere, and they're able to enforce this lockdown. And what's happening over here is that it's being enforced by the news, but not everybody watches the news. We've just gone through a whole paradigm shift of fake news.
Yeah.
So the news is drawing everybody in again, whether it's something you watch or something that you read or something that you hear. It's got us from all angles. And I'm not talking about the virus. I'm just talking about the matrix-like control that the system has over us in terms of a giant control group, because we're pretty much free to do what we want. I mean, when was the last time you saw a good old-fashioned Bobby walking down the street? Probably not for a long time, because there's just not that many police officers about anymore. Much more likely to see a van with a camera, on a motorway or something like that. That said, what's happening now is that there's lots of Agent Smiths around.
Yeah.
Remember in the film The Matrix when
Yeah.
people would go about their normal everyday life, and then all of a sudden one person would change into Agent Smith.
Correct. Yeah.
Into Agent Smith, and that's kind of how I see what's going on right now as a sort of a matrix of society. We're being controlled by ourselves. I mean, yes, for any civilization to exist, we need conformity. But how that conformity is manifesting is through Agent Smith. It is through people enforcing the norms of what's being asked from us at this present moment in time. And I think that's really interesting. You're talking about a film reframe. I just thought I'd put that Matrix reframe on what's happening right now.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, this morning, I don't know if you saw it on LinkedIn, but there's literally in Singapore. So there is you've probably heard of the company called Boston Dynamics. Yeah.
Now, but go ahead.
It's a company called Boston Dynamics. They make robots. Okay, they make robots, and they've got a robotic dog. Yeah.
I've seen it, yeah.
And there's literally a robotic dog walking around the streets of Singapore. Yeah. Checking, and I don't know how it interacts with the human, but it's basically checking the social distancing rules enforced by the Singapore government by walking around the parks, right? So, Sam Sammartino is a futurist strategy guy in Australia that I'm connected to. He posted it. And I said, boy, oh boy, Steve Sammartino. I said, boy, oh boy, Steve, this is like just like watching a movie, a Hollywood movie. Yeah. Hashtag rise of the machines, hashtag, coming soon, or is it here today? Yeah. So
I know. Yeah, Tesla just shot up about, 120 or more satellites for this 5G system, and they've all been, flying around the sky, worrying people into catastrophe. And it's almost like Skynet has gone live.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
The old Terminator films of the late 1980s, 1990s. And DARPA, who invested a lot of money into creating these robots that you're talking about. Funnily enough, I just happened to see one this morning. And a couple of years ago, they were having trouble getting it to stand up. And now the same robot can fire an AR-15, make a distinction between ISIS and a regular soldier.
Wow.
Not only that, be placed under extreme pressure and make correct decisions under attack while being beaten by crowbars and the things that they used to, the bashing the doors that the police use. I forget what they call them now. But basically, these machines are like superhuman beings, and they are the new drone soldiers that could be used for war. And it's really scary and very, very scary, because we do have a tendency to use technology for war. I mean, I was watching, there was something on TV last night, The Darkest Hour.
Darkest Hour, the Churchill thing, yeah.
Churchill. Right, so in the 40s, not great with history, they used the telegram. Remember a telegram to communicate? Mm-hmm. So, you Morse code, I think this is how it works. You send Morse code, one end, someone's got someone who knows how to decipher Morse code, the other end, then writes out what the message is, and then sends the letter out into the field to the sergeant or whoever. Okay, within 75 years is it? I think we had VE Day a couple of days ago. The technology now has cascaded into something so futuristic that George Orwell would raise his own eyebrows. But have we evolved? How much as people have we evolved our own technology, our own mental technology, our own inner technology? Because externally, technology is accelerated at such an amazing rate. Internally, are we still the same people that we were 75 years ago? Are we still the same people that we were 175 years ago? How do we measure these things? How do we measure this?
There's one book that you, I don't know if you've listened to some of my other guests on the G&T Sessions podcast, but there's a guy that I met in London, near Old Street as well, actually. He was presenting at a tech company in just near Old Street Roundabout. And I had him on the show about 18 months ago. And he's a guy called Joe Toscano. And he's written a book called Automating Humanity, which I would recommend you read if you've not heard about it. It's absolutely brilliant. And I read it, and it's words and pictures. And some of the pictures that he created for this illustrations are absolutely mind-blowing.
Right.
Like a person sat at a desk on a computer, basically as though they're actually sat at the bottom of the ocean, drowning in information, it's like the kind of the visualization it creates from looking at the pictures. And literally, I started reading the book, and this was before he launched the book, a while ago. And I said, "This is like George Orwell, 1984." He said, "Andrew, keep reading. You'll see some of the stuff in the book. He talks about that." And he used to work for Google. Right? And he left Google because he didn't agree with the principles and the policies and the way that they were doing what's called data harvesting. Absolutely mind-blowing, some of the stuff that he was going through, off camera and on camera, right? So all I can say to you is, our friend Mr. Rose and all the stuff that's been going on recently around that stuff, it's fascinating.
Yeah, I like all that stuff. I find all that very, very interesting, and we're definitely. I mean, even if you look at a visual side of what you're talking about, the film Contagion, I think that came out 5 years ago. I don't know, maybe it was longer, maybe it was 8 years ago. All the memes, the social norms about social distancing were coined in that film back then. And now it's almost like a mirror image.
It's like a blueprint. It's like a playbook, isn't it? Yeah.
I know we I don't want to sort of go down to the realm of conspiracy theories and stuff like that, because I don't necessarily believe in conspiracy theories. I have my own theory about conspiracy theories. But there was a book wrote in I've sent it to you. I think it was in 1981. And about
the king. Yeah, you've seen that. Yeah, with the quotes. Yeah, the Wuhan thing. Yeah.
Not Nostradamus, but he predicted the future.
Yeah.
And he down all of these predictions. One of them was for the year 2000, where there would be a strange outbreak of a pneumonia-type virus that would affect the lungs and the breathing system of the whole planet. Immediately, it would vanish after a certain period of time, and then come back. And then he went on to talk about how, and this is what he talked about, not what necessarily what I believe. He went on to talk about how it was an experiment which started in Wuhan, and it was called the Wuhan 500, the secret weapon. And I'm not making this up. This is actually in the book.
I know. So, I know. You sent me the chapter to say that. Yeah, exactly.
You've heard of a guy, I'm sure you've heard of a famous psychologist, psychiatrist called Carl Gustav Jung.
Yes.
He was around the same sort of time as Freud. He even worked with Sigmund Freud as well. And he was scientific, but he was also metaphysical. And metaphysical means beyond the physical. And he was very much into his dreams. He was very much into analyzing his own dreams and looking for the hidden meaning in dreams. And he's released a book. He released the book because he's dead now. But he wrote a book that was never released, and it was eventually released in 2009, called The Red Book. And it talks all about his dreams that he had in 1913 and 1914. And he thought he was psychotic. He thought he was going psychotic. And he dreamed about the whole of Europe being covered in a flood of blood. And he was dreaming about people dying and all the rest of it. And he thought he was going crazy. He didn't understand, and this is what he thought, he was actually tapping into the universal collective unconscious, unconscious theory that we're all connected on a deep level. We all share the same consciousness on a very, very deep level. And eventually, a few years after these dreams, World War One, I believe, broke out.
Yeah.
When he realized, when war broke out, he was not psychotic. He was not psychotic after all. He was tapping into something else. Now,
you see in the future, yeah.
Perhaps it's the same thing. I don't know. It's out of the realm of science and into the realm of something else. But we stopped talking about science, didn't we? And we start talking about technology. Well, in the same way, it is kind of a technology of the metaphysical, the technology of the mind. We've been projecting our own ideas about the future into the future for a long time. I'm 40 now. When I was growing up, it was things like the Terminator and Predator and things like that. We project through TV, we project through film, we project through book. And then what happens?
By the way, I'm just going to tell you a little story just on the Terminator.
Just finish this off. Remember, we've got the reticular activating system, and then we focus. If I say think about the color red, you're just going to see red everywhere. So then we attract what we think about, and that's what's happening with us. We're attracting what we're projecting. But anyway, sorry, carry on.
No, I was just going to say one of my. So I'm part of a YouTube group in London. And we meet periodically, and we obviously it's more online now. But we actually had a meeting at the Planet Hollywood in Piccadilly a few months ago, and there was a guy talking about time lapse. So how he records time lapse videos. Like where you have a really fast, like he takes like 300 shots on a camera and basically puts into a video like a really fast video. So he's doing it for David Guetta and all the kind of DJs. And on the way out, literally in a box on the wall is Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator jacket, leather jacket from the movie. And you look at it and you go, wow, that's not what I expected. He's quite small actually. He looks quite short, and he looks like he's, I don't know, less than 5'10" when I'm 5'10", 5'11". He looks less than 6 foot, and he looks quite. It's just this kind of. If you look at the TV screen, it looks bigger than the whole world. It's quite fascinating. Sorry, that was my little Terminator story. But yeah, I mean, it's just you start thinking about you create a mind's picture of what you think it's going to be like, and it's different to what you see in real life. Yeah. So that's the thing about the movie versus real life. But as we're seeing, these two worlds seem to be merging. Yeah, no, so I think one of the things I was going to ask you as a kind of way of, I suppose, taking it to the next stage on our conversation was about, you know, the stuff that you're doing around, you know, your kind of foundational stuff you're doing around hypnotherapy, the stuff you're doing around ultra running that you talked about, and the plant-based stuff. And you said you've got this new business. Around what's the business about, and what's the mission and purpose, and what's the why of that? Who are you trying to help?
Well, I've boiled it down now. I've been pivoting. I've been pivoting a lot. You know, I've been pivoting a lot, and I've boiled it right down now. So what I'm doing is I'm working with runners. Anybody that likes running, anybody that, for example, wants to. Maybe they want to run a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, a marathon, an ultra marathon, even a sky ultra. Maybe they're just an average runner, you know, and they just want to improve their game. Well, then I will work with them to help them develop the championship mindset through what I term a mental and emotional approach, which is along a mindset and motivational program, which I've created through using all of the studies that I've talked about, the neuroscience studies of breathing and activating the courage switch, gratitude science, and putting it all together because I've always been a runner throughout my life. Anything that I've done in my life, I've been a drug addict, I've been an alcoholic, I've smoked, in my past I've had all kinds of problems. But what's always pulled me through is having a strong mindset and having good physical fitness, i.e. running. So if you're a business owner and you're running a business, then are you running? And if you're not, why are you not running? Because running is a form of meditation. It's a form of mindset training, and you need to activate. You've got to run. If you're not running, then you're not really in charge of your physical body. If you're not in charge of your physical body, you're not really in charge of your emotions. You're not in charge of your mind. So we put it all together. I can teach you self-hypnosis. I can teach you to use the techniques that have helped me to help other athletes win in their chosen fields, so that you can become a better runner, and that will help you in other areas of your life. Let's say you're struggling with your weight. Okay. Running's going to help you do that. Let's say you're struggling with alcohol. Okay, running's going to help you get over that. But it's about the mental and emotional side of running, which is going to help you to win in whatever field you're in. So it's a new thing. I've been pivoting for a long time. I finally rebranded while I've been on lockdown. So I'm ready to bring it to the marketplace. Essentially, it's all about helping you develop the right mindset so that you can get out there, start running, and killing whatever business that you're in. And that's it.
That's really good. It's really interesting, because I think I suppose the only thing I comment about, because I have done a bit of running, but I wouldn't say I'm a collar on myself a runner. But maybe I'm slightly north of you in years. Maybe I haven't done enough stretching exercises since my martial arts days of the 80s and 90s, when I used to do Lao Gar Kung Fu at competition level, which was always quite funny, getting battered in the head by various different people that I didn't really know. It certainly makes you wake up. But the thing is about my knees, your knees, because I think the thing is, it depends on also your shoes, what shoes you wear, because you can. If you haven't got the wrong gait, you can actually screw your knees up. You can. That's what I've heard anyway. Maybe you can correct me. But.
Well, I mean, running is one of the oldest. The oldest. Just like for example, as hunters, we used running or jogging. We used jogging to kill our prey. Okay,
to make sure you don't get eaten by dinosaurs.
Yeah, because when you're hunting down a woolly mammoth, or when you're hunting a deer, then you're going to jog after it slowly, because the deer sees you coming, it triggers its fight or flight, It
Mm.
sprints, exhausted. You eventually catch up. It runs off again, gets exhausted. You eventually jog after it. And then what happens is you wear your prey down. You wear your prey down through running. I mean, the oldest runners never had any shoes. You know, even some of the runners in South America, some of the famous runners don't wear shoes.
Oh, the African guys, yeah, exactly, with the marathons and stuff, yeah.
Nike now, they've produced a new form of shoe. Well, it's not even a shoe; it's like a sock that's barefoot and
Right.
goes in it. So even there's been studies done into the marketing of Nike and all the rest of it that prove that actually a new pair of trainers is no better than an old pair of trainers. In fact, old pairs of trainers might actually be better for your knees, be better for running, because a lot of marketing goes into these trainers to get you addicted to buying a new pair.
Yeah, spending the £200 on some trainers or whatever. Yeah.
Comes out, yeah. So actually, so they might actually hinder your progress. So I have bad knees, as you may or may not know. Dave has bad knees. He's constantly getting fluid drawn out of his knees. But
is he? David Goggins has even got. I'm not surprised with the stuff he's been through.
But it's his mindset. You know, he won't let him get in the way of his running. And people lie. You know, I won't let. I've got a bad knee. I injured my knee when I was in the army, and it still bothers me today. But I take my vitamins. You know, I take my oils. I take my MSM, my glucosamine. I take my proteins. I'm a vegan, so I have to get my my essential amino acids from certain foods. Otherwise, I won't get it. It's the same with B12. I take the supplements that I need, and I get out and I get after it. And it's about taking extreme ownership, not making excuses as to why you can't do something, because by making an excuse, you're giving yourself a reason to be a victim, not get out there. And I'm not talking about people who've got legs blown off and they're in a wheelchair. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about like little niggles and injuries and things like that. You know, the saying, no pain, no gain.
Right, okay. I've got two topics I need to pick up with you before we close this episode. So the first one is movies, okay? So last time that we spoke, which was a while ago before we decided to do this episode, we talked about one of our dear friends and his film Reconnected, right?
Oh.
Yeah. So Brian Rose's Reconnected film, which actually I've now watched, yeah. And I went, as you, I believe you went to the premiere of Reconnected, yeah, last year. I went to the premiere of UltraMind, which was his triathlon, plant-based triathlon piece in 2018. It would be, I think 2018. So I agree with you on your hypotheses that the amount of authenticity and you could say opening up of the story is very, very interesting with watching Reconnected. So thank you for sharing with that. I don't know if you've got any comments about that.
Well, the film in general, or how it?
Yeah. Well, both, I think.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm on the London Rail journey. I've been on it maybe as long as you. I don't know. I watched UltraMind. Right. What can I do to develop an UltraMind? Okay. Well, I can't afford a nice bike. I can't afford all that running gear. That swimming gear. So I run an ultra marathon. So I developed an UltraMind by constant training in the mountains. When you do things like that, you know what you're capable of. You know what you can do and what you can't do. Then I watched Reconnect. Reconnect is about Brian's journey into the basin of South America and getting in touch with Mother Ayahuasca, which is basically a plant medicine. And around that sort of time, I was still living in the mountains, and I kind of felt like I needed my own plant medicine journey that I could call my own and see what it's all about and see what I could learn about myself. Around that sort of time, Kerry was over, and she had some Rick Simpson oil, which is what she was using to treat her brain tumor, because there's a lot of studies and stories out there that it actually helps to kill cancer cells.
Okay.
There's a plant medicine. It's psychedelic if you take enough of it, and and that's pretty much what I did one day. So I wanted to see what it was all about, and I took a dose, and it showed me visions, things about myself, my past, my present, my future. That you see what it kind of does is it kind of like molds the past, present, and future all into one.
Okay.
It fuses your head with your heart, and the energy field of your heart is considerably bigger than the energy field of your head, your brain. And we don't often connect into our heart much because we spend so much of our time living in our head. And that fusion of mind and heart created through the plant medicine, created a kind of massive emotional cognitive dissonance in me at the time, where I was at a bit of a junction, a bit of a crossroad in my life. I thought I was on the path that I was supposed to be on. Actually, I wasn't, and the correct path was somewhere completely different, doing something else. But I was so stuck in my ways, I was so stuck in my head that I couldn't see it.
Right.
Form of like egocentrism, easy for me to say, egocentricism. And what the plant medicine does is it dissolves boundaries. And
Well, he removes the ego, does it?
Removes the ego and all the things that was holding it in place, all these structures, the Goggins, the iron mind that I built up, and also my own personal values and my goals and my likes, my dislikes, all my belief systems. It strips them all down to the essence, what Goggins would call like the mineral soil. When you get down to mineral soil, you can't burn anything.
Yeah.
Because it's already been burnt. So
you're down to raw. You're down to the base. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. And basically, it was like something just placed a hand on top of my head and said, "Look, this is what you need to get over. This is what you need to forgive yourself for. This is what you need to move on from. This is where you're at with your current life. Is any of this actually going to serve you? Where are you going with this? Why is your focus?" So it's very analytical. It's very introspective. That's the only way I can explain it. It's very introspective. It made me, look at my own shadow is one way of explaining it. So we talked earlier about Carl Gustav Jung, psychologist. He came up with the whole idea of the shadow. So everybody has a shadow side that we can't see. And sometimes we orbit around the shadow. Sometimes we're good, and then sometimes we're doing things that aren't so good for our highest good. And I was probably not on the correct path for my highest good. I was actually studying a lot of Mike Tyson's former coach, Cus D'Amato.
Yeah.
And I was on a journey with Cus. I've been on a journey with Cus for years since I started boxing. That took me to all kinds of books, and I was learning about the history of Cus and how he used hypnosis on Mike Tyson to turn him into this megalomaniac, which he was in the ring. Because Mike Tyson was actually quite a very meek and mild person, and he'd been brought up on the rough streets of Brown.
Turn into like a beast. Yeah.
So Cus wanted to have one more world champion before he died, and he'd been visualizing this champion through his dream. He would torso of this future champion, but never the face. And then finally, when he was in his late 70s, Mike Tyson came to him, and then he put all of his focus and all of his knowledge on turning Mike into this world champion. And he performed hypnosis on him, and he would make him believe that he was a direct descendant of Alexander the Great, and Alexander the Great, and Genghis Khan, and Napoleon. All of these what we call in hypnotherapy, we call them ego states. So he's these ego states onto Mike Tyson, and of course I was absorbing all of this knowledge, all of these ego states. And there's a term called transference in therapy. When you're working with someone, sometimes they project their transference, that you pick up their drama, their emotions, that they project that onto you, and then you suffer the same feelings that they suffer. And it was kind of form of transference, really. And I had all these ego states floating around in my own head. You know, I had the Genghis Khan and the Napoleon Bonaparte, and you know, and
Wow.
and said, you know, your focus, your reticular activating system is focused on all this negative stuff. What good is it doing you? You know, I mean, I'm covering it. Yes, it's nice to uncover this stuff because nobody's even uncovered it, and it's been talked about, but nobody's. So anyway, so in that moment, I decided that I needed to switch off that focus, shut down that laser beam, and focus on something that was going to help people, because I wasn't really going to use any of that, really. You know, I mean, what would be the point? I mean, that wouldn't do anything for my profession. As interesting as it is, it's nice that I've uncovered it, but you know, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to do anything good, is it? But you know, that was
Interesting.
yeah. So
No, so the final topic I wanted to raise with you was about, you know, given the audience we have to this podcast, which is kind of I suppose, you know, entrepreneurs, you know, founders of companies, obviously people who have got a mission, they've got you know, they want to realize their potential, they want to, you know, they have a dream, they have a journey they're on. Yeah, they've probably had some peaks and valleys already. You know, what would be some takeaways or some guidance that you would give from your, obviously, you know, extensive diversity experience? Any thoughts on that?
You know, I mean, we've touched a lot on AI, and we've touched a lot on the inner technology and stuff like that, and the way the world's going right now. It's easy we talked about projecting our own futures into the future and then them appearing later on down the road. I mean, it's easy if you're a business owner, for me it is anyway, to visualize a kind of Blade Runner kind of corporation future where you've got, you know, Tyrell, is it? And one guy just sitting at this throne of this corporation, and there's no human beings there whatsoever because everything's run by technology. Therefore, there's no life, there's no soul to a corporation because it's spiritless. It's just this machine, you know, that just churns out numbers and figures and, you know, statistics and whatever. So people over artificial intelligence all day, every day. You know, people bring creative thought, you know, that original thought. They bring a life force to your business. You know, they bring a spirit to your business, just in the same way that, you know, we're all spirited people. You're a spirited person. I'm a spirited person. You know, companies can be spirited. You know, if you haven't got a good bunch of people working for you, if you haven't got a good spirited bunch of people working for you, then your company, your organization has got no life. It's got no life force. So always focus on the people that you've got working for them. You know, give them the support, the education, the development that they need to help the company go where it needs to go, where you want it to go. Share with them your vision, share with them your values, get them all on board. Start with why, and work harder on yourself. You know, if you're a CEO, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. There was an old quote by Jim Rohn. You know, that's always been one of my mantras ever since I was young, to work harder on yourself than you do on your job, because that's the most important thing. And it's important that you work on your employees as well, as hard as you possibly can, so that you bring the most out of them.
Okay. It's good to end on a Jim Rohn quote, because I think it's very profound. Some of the stuff that Jim Rohn obviously put out there was, you know, when you read it, you know, Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, all that kind of stuff. It's absolutely on the money, so to speak. Yeah. It's just absolutely in the bullseye.
Yeah. Jim Rohn was talking
very
about
thought-provoking.
Yeah, the seasons. You know, you've got the seasons of the year, the seasons to harvest. You know, you've got the summer where you take your harvest, and then you've got the winter, you know, where you're looking over your organization, you're looking over your company. Right now, most business owners are facing a winter. We're coming into summer, but it's a winter. Winter, because we're in the biggest recession since 2008. Okay, the wheels are coming off, and right now it's really important that people are working on themselves, and they're looking over their organization like a shepherd would look over his flock. because it's a really tough time out there for business owners. And it's all about, we talked about it, taking extreme ownership. Everything's your problem. Everything's your problem to be owned. But the freedom from coming by taking that ownership will give you something that you've never had before. So just good luck out there, because it's tough out there right now. It's really, really tough.
Agreed. And I think, you know, some of the topics we've talked about today have been incredibly interesting and compelling. So, you know, all I can say to you, Mr. Matthew Robinson, is thank you so much for coming on the episode. I'm glad we made it. And I look forward to hearing the rest of the journey that you're now on with your new business and your new laser guided missile. So it's exciting times.
Thanks.
So thank you so much for spending time with us today, and look forward to keeping up with what you're up to. If anybody wants to contact you, do you want to share any details of how to contact you, or any websites or anything like that? Do you want to share?
Literally put my website together a few days ago, actually by myself. Put it all together. So it's ultrawarriorway.com. Very simple.
ultrawarriorway.com. That was Matthew Robinson, the founder and CEO of ultrawarriorway.com. Plant-based marathon, or plant-based ultramarathon hypnotherapist. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a plant-based ultramarathon runner transformation coach.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much, Matthew, and have a fantastic day. Thanks very much for your time.
Talk to you. Take care.
Take care.